Assessors Review Committee. Today is going to be a brief meeting. We're going to get an overview briefly from Luke, and then we're going to have election of officers for the chair's position, as well as for the secretary. If he chooses to stay, he can. I will be honest with you, I'm going to be stepping down as the chair. So we will be looking for someone to replace me at this meeting. And that it'll be the top of the order for today's meeting. Luke, if you'd like to take a moment.
I would. I did, in the moments before the meeting, just talk with Joe and Robert really quick. Their terms actually end at the end of this month, so within a few days. Joe has said he's gonna not reapply. Robert already has through Diana, so we need to find a fourth. I've got some people in mind. I'll talk to some people and get them appointed by the select board, obviously with your assistance. So.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you, Joe, for all of your time that you've served. I appreciate everything you've done and what you've brought to the table. And Bob, thank you for signing up again.
You bet.
I am grateful for that. Thank you.
Same salary?
Yes, exactly. Well, you might see a bump. We'll see.
What the community needs the Board of Assessment Review for is for you to be staffed and ready in the event that we do have a tax appeal and an abatement request. Abatement requests right now can't even come in. There's a 6-month time frame during the year where someone can apply for an abatement. It's from the date of commitment, which is usually first or second week of August. That's when I take the data in the software and say, this is it. I think these are the right values. We're gonna print bills and get them sent. That's the date of commitment, because from that day, if you make a change, you have to go through the abatement process or the supplemental process. So it's called the commitment. Usually second week of August. From that day, there's 185 days where someone can appeal their assessment. It's basically 6 months, which falls usually mid-February. So once February came and went, there was no more opportunity for people to appeal their 2026 tax bill. So we're kind of just in a lull right now until new bills get sent out, opens that window up again. Normally you see residences would apply like right after they get their tax bill. So in September, October, you'll have like homeowners apply, and then for some reason, because their attorneys tell them to, the larger corporations wait until the absolute last day, the 185th day in February to apply. So we're kind of always waiting till that last day, which is this year was February 13, I believe, to see if anyone's going to send in an abatement request. No one did this year. None of the corporations did. The year prior, we did. We had 4 sent in, and none of them ended up coming to this board. We worked with them, and nothing ever came of it. So this year, I had only 3 abatement requests. All came pretty early on in the fall of last year. All of them were just homes. 2 I granted in full, 1 I granted in part. And so the only person there who could have even had the opportunity to appeal to this board is the 1 I granted in part. They were satisfied with what I had done for an abatement. So that was it. However, if the day comes that we do have someone that appeals my assessment, they're not satisfied with my decision, then there's a whole time frame that kicks off for them to appeal to this board. And you need to be functional and ready in case that happens, and with somewhat of an understanding of what your role is. So I've got some handouts. I gave some of these to you last year. I'm going to give you the 2 pages of the town charter that talk about this board, how it's made up, the parameters of the board, what your role is, who represents on there. There's not much to it, but it's interesting and very critical because it talks about the minutes, how they're supposed to be kept, public meetings, that kind of thing. So I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give you the Maine Revenue Services Property Tax Division Bulletin 10. So Maine Revenue Services has put together basically a handy handout with all of the nuts and bolts of the appeal process, from the assessor through you guys, and then even on to the county board or the state board, depending on the type of a property that's being appealed. But everything that's really critical to what you do is in here, the timeframes and your responsibilities.
A question for you, Luke?
Yes.
Could you explain what happens when there is an abatement given?
To me?
So someone comes to you, I
Yeah.
have a house,
Yeah.
I question the tax assessed value.
Yeah.
What happens?
Yep. If I agree with you and we lower the value to something different than what was committed on commitment day, then I have to obviously keep track of that. So I have a database that I put it into. And that adjustment also has to go into the hard copy of the commitment book, which is our forever going forward record of the taxes for that property. I then simply take a handy form that I literally walk down to the tax collectors and I give it to the tax collector. She goes into the collection software and enters that in so she knows to collect less than what was on the commitment. Depending on the timing of that, it may be done before any payments are due, and the taxpayer can just give adjust the amount that came on the bill to reflect what it should have been. They do not get a separate bill. They have to kind of communicate with us and know how much less to pay. If they've paid the bill and we do an abatement, then they actually get a check in the mail for the amount that they were overtaxed.
And how long a period? What's the time frame for that abatement? Is it a one-time abatement? Is it annually?
It is. So whether I issue an abatement or this board issues an abatement, it is only for the year in which that person applied. So if the assessor has made an adjustment because a taxpayer was able to demonstrate that it was too high or an illegal assessment, then it's reasonable to assume that the assessor is going to continue to treat the property the same moving forward. Not that there won't be adjustments for market value and things, but if someone comes in and says, all my neighbors have 200 feet of frontage, I only have 5 feet of frontage, you're treating me the same as them. Like, oh, of course. We're going to give you a land discount to reflect how much less of the frontage you have. And I'm going to keep whatever that discount is going forward. But the same applies to this board, which is sometimes a misconception. If someone were to come here and they get, you agree they're overassessed, they get a $200,000 adjustment on their assessed value, that does not mean that that has to be honored moving forward if the assessor disagrees with it. And that has happened in other communities, but in most cases, if this board has made the determination as a group that the assessor erred, the assessor should continue to grant, for whatever that adjustment was. Assessment's still gonna change as years go forward, but whatever the adjustment that was made should stay on there going forward. The assessor can only do an abatement for 1 year from the time of the commitment. So people can only apply in the first 6 months. But for mistakes that come up, like I had you down for too many bedrooms, or I assessed the wrong owner, something like that, the assessor can still, without request from the property owner, can still do the abatement for that first year. But if you discover something like you've been taxed for a pool, this happens a lot. People demo their pools and never say anything. We don't know. 5 years later, they say, I got rid of my pool 5 years ago. I can abate for the most recent tax year. I can do nothing for the 4 years that I didn't know.
I think that's good information for the public.
I attended a Zoom course put on by an attorney in Bangor last month. It's a Board of Assessment Review workshop. He shared his slides from that presentation and said, you can print these and give them to your board. So without the attorney kind of saying what he was saying on some of these slides don't make any sense, but especially as you get towards the end, there is really good data here that is valuable to you. So I'm going to give you guys these 3 documents, and I will just say, at this point, because I do a 2-year sales study, I'm done doing my market adjustments for this tax year. I increased values on average about 4%, so a pretty modest year compared to others. So still growth, but much slower. So I don't anticipate there being any sticker shock with any tax bills this year. The amount of, now that the budget is set, the actual tax, the amount we have to go to the taxpayers for, to ask for, is a 2.8% increase from last year. And we are going to have about 1% of growth. So it's going to be a pretty minor increases this year. Added about $300 million in market adjustments. If we were to commit today, the tax rate would come down 10 cents from what it was last year, and I still have quite a lot of new value to add. So that's going to continue to come down. We might get down to 810, which would be the lowest it's been since 2007. So I don't anticipate there being much action in the abatement department unless, and I do have mistakes. So the cases from this year were just straight out mistakes that if the property owner had just come in, first step, we want people to come in and say, what's the deal? You don't have to go through the abatement process if I made a mistake. It's really should be for you disagree on the methodology or the final number. You don't have to do that if I have the wrong data down on the assessment. And that was the case with the people that applied. I had to fix the data and gave them their money back.
Okay, well, that seems to be the trend because Adam, which is an organization that I follow for trending, came out yesterday and they said right now nationally, which isn't relative to Europe, but nationally, the growth rate year over year is 0.7. So that's overall nationally. So you're right to have adjusted down on that. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, we did have a few neighborhoods come down. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So I'll hand these to you before you leave. But what needs to be done today is a chair needs to be appointed and voted on, and a secretary needs to be appointed and voted on. And I'll leave that up to the current chair.
Yes. So I'd like to know if anyone would, I know, Joe, you're going to be leaving us, so I don't think you'll be stepping up on that one. Is there anyone here that would be willing to take the position of the chair?
Would you mind giving a brief overview of what that entails, since this is meeting number 1 that I've
I know that. And I'm not looking for anyone specific. I mean, whoever would like to step up, because I've been doing this, I can't tell you how many years
Yeah.
I've been doing this.
I can answer the question. So the chair would be the point person that I would communicate with to set up the meetings and to let you guys know if there's been an appeal that's been made. And the chair is the person who sits there and kind of just literally chairs the meeting, just kind of make sure that we're going in the order we're supposed to be going in and keeping people on track. Just basic how to running a meeting type of thing. There's not extra work throughout the course of the year. It's just the person that kind of runs the
point person, so to speak.
Yeah.
So in other words, we had no appeals last year, or abatement requests that we had to address. So I don't have meetings to have meetings. So we have one annual meeting a year is what I've decided was appropriate for all of us because we're all busy. And it just really comes down to if there is an abatement, then Luke has to communicate with the chair, and then he has to facilitate putting everything together in preparation for the rest of the members to review. So we have a full pack, and that usually comes from Luke. He hands that off to us.
Yeah.
And then we have a meeting, and then we would sit and discuss exactly the results of Luke's findings, and we also hear the side of the homeowner or the business from their perspective of why they're requesting an abatement. And that's kind of about all there is to it. So there really isn't, this is not a heavy lift, let me put it that way.
in the event that we had a appeal, you'd have a list right in front of you of the order of operations, what and when, who gets to speak and when, and it would not be complicated. There's probably more work for the secretary than there is for the president. The secretary has to work with the library, the town manager's assistant. There's public hearings that have to be posted, so there's quite a lot there if there's going to be a meeting. But and Greg hasn't, the chair hasn't had to do anything for the last 2 years because we haven't had any appeals.
So hopefully that answers your
It
question.
does, yeah,
and
thank
everyone
you.
else that is interested. So I think we should first find out, Bob, do you want to stay on
Sure.
as the secretary? So,
Yep.
everyone in favor of Bob staying on? Yes, unanimous. And as far as the chair,
I'll throw my name in.
Greg, you should be the chair.
Greg will not be the chair. Thank you. Want to give it a shot? Sure. I'm not going anywhere. I will be staying on. Luke and I worked really well together. Whenever he needs second opinion on prices, you've got the experience, I've got the experience, so I want to stay on the committee. I just think it's time for someone else to get some experience as a chair.
Happy to give it a shot.
Great, Jeremy. Thank you very much. I think we're all set.
Okay.
Any further business from your side of the table, Luke?
No, other than just to say I need to follow up on getting that other position filled, and I'm not sure exactly the timing and how that works. I know we did it last year with Jeremy. This year I'll try to be a little more on top of it because the communication with Jeremy was poor. So I'll try to do better with this next one.
The names are going before the board on June 23rd for reestablishment.
Okay.
So that opens up
So I got
all the
3.5
all the
weeks.
open slots.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
All right, and I'll reach out to find some other folks as well.
Okay.
Not having any other business, does anyone else have any business for the group? All right, having no further business, let's adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.